Hello everyone, I'm Chirag and welcome to part 2 of the tutorial series on Amazon Textract. So guys, in this video I'm going to take you through on how to extract text from a simple receipt using Amazon Textract via Lambda function and the S3 bucket. So guys, before we move on, I want to add an exciting update by AWS here regarding the AWS Textract price reduction. So the update is that there is up to 32% price reduction in 8 AWS regions and up to 50% reduction in asynchronous job processing times. So basically you can refer this table just to compare the old and the new pricing. So basically the price that we discussed in the previous video might differ now. So please refer to this updated pricing for Amazon Textract, and I'm going to post this link in the video description, so please check that out. So now moving along, so guys, as you can see on my screen, I have this very simple flow that is over here, and we are going to implement this flow in this video. So the flow is like the user will upload a file to the Amazon S3 bucket, and that will trigger the Lambda function, and we are going to write some logic in the Lambda function or the code that will call the Amazon Textract service, and Amazon Textract service will return the OCR or the extracted information in the form of JSON, and that is something that we are going to parse in this video. Correct? So this is a very simple flow, and the invocation is going to be the synchronous invocation. So here we are not going to perform any sort of asynchronous invocation, so keep that thing in mind. So now let's get started. So the very first thing that we are going to do is to create the S3 bucket. So navigate to AWS Management Console, search for S3 service and click on that. And once you are within S3 Management Console, click on create bucket. So here I'm going to give the bucket name. I will say Textract video tutorial. And then I'm going to leave rest of the option as it is, and I will simply say create bucket. Now here we have successfully created the bucket. So here it is, that is Textract-video-tutorial. You can create a directory if you want. So now before we move on, I want to highlight that here we are simply going to perform the OCR or to extract the text. And here we are not going to detect the table or the key value pair from the uploaded document. So this video is regarding a simple text extraction or the text analysis from the receipt. Right, so we are going to simply extract the raw text from the receipt, and we are not going to detect the table or key value pair within the receipt. Okay, so now as a next step, we will click on services, we will look for Lambda and click on that. And once you are within Lambda Management Console, click on top right corner, that is create function. Give the function name, I will say Textract-Lambda. And within runtime, I'm going to select Python 3.9, that is the latest runtime for Python. And within permission, I will say create a new role with basic Lambda permissions. So here at this point of time, we are not going to use an existing role. Instead, we will let the Lambda function create the IAM role for us. And once that role is created, we will go ahead to that role and attach the permission that we want. Okay. So I will select create a new role with a basic Lambda permission and say create function. So here, as you can see, we have successfully created the Textra-Lambda function. Okay, now as a next step, we are going to click on configuration and say permission from the left panel. And here you will be able to see the execution role that the Lambda function has created. So click on that and it will redirect you to the IAM Management Console. So here we have a policy that is attached. So apart from this policy, we are going to attach two more policies. So click on attach policies. So the very first policy that we are going to add is AWS Lambda execute. Attach this. So this will basically provides get access to the S3 and full access to CloudWatch logs. And apart from this, since we are going to call the Amazon Textract service from the Lambda function, we will also require permission for the Amazon Textract service. So search for Amazon Textract. So here at this point of time, I'm going to attach Amazon Textract full access, but if you don't want to provide full access, if you want to define some custom permission, then you can create the custom policy for that. Okay, so I'm going to click on attach policy. And here we have successfully configured the IAM role for the Lambda function. So now I'm going to close this. So now as a next step, we are going to add a trigger over here. So you can simply click on add trigger within function overview, or you can also click on triggers from the left panel. Either way it would work. Okay, so say add trigger. Here we will say S3, because we want to invoke or call this Lambda function whenever any file gets uploaded into the S3 bucket that we have just created. Okay, so that's the reason we are going to add a trigger over here. And now within bucket, we are going to look for the S3 bucket that we have just created, that is Textract video tutorial. So select that, and I think rest of the option will remain as it is until and unless you want to change the event type, or if you want to add a prefix or a suffix. Okay, so here the event type is all object create event. So whenever any object is created, this Lambda function should get triggered, right? So that's basically event type. And then if you want to set a trigger from the specific directory, then you can add a prefix of the directory name. And then we have suffix. If you want to trigger this Lambda function only, for example, .jpg file is uploaded, then you can say .jpg over here. So whenever the non-jpg file gets uploaded, like for example, if someone upload .png file, then this Lambda function will not get triggered until and unless .jpeg file getting uploaded in the S3 bucket. Okay, so that's basically suffix. And finally, we are going to click on this checkbox and we will say add. So here we have successfully created the S3 bucket, we have successfully configured the IAM role, and then we have successfully attached or created the trigger for the Lambda function. Now as a next step, we are going to click on code over here and scroll down to code source. So here, as I mentioned earlier, that we are going to add some code that would be responsible for calling the Amazon Textract, correct? So let's modify this. So here I have already pushed the code on the repository, that is aws-tutorial-code, and I'm going to paste the link of this code in the video description so you can have a look. So I'm going to copy this code, go back to Amazon Lambda, and I'm going to paste it over here. I will say save and deploy. So now as a next step, I'm going to take you through this code at the very high level. Okay, so basically on line number 9 and 10, we are importing two packages, that is JSON and the Boto3. Okay, and then on line number 12, we have defined a function that would be responsible for extracting text from the response. So we will have a look at it in some time. Now let's have a look at the line number 19. So here we have the Lambda handler function. On line number 20, we have defined the Boto3 client object of the Textract service, right, to invoke the Amazon Textract. And then on line number 21, we are checking if there is any data in the event. So basically when Lambda function gets triggered via S3 bucket, it will have some information in the event, right? So we are checking if there is an event, then it will fetch the bucket name and the file name from that event. Okay, and then on line number 26, we are printing the bucket name and the file name. And finally, on line number 28, we are making a call to the Amazon Textract API using detect document text. So again, as I mentioned earlier, that in this video, we are simply going to perform OCR, that is the text analysis. And here we are not intended to detect the tables or the key value pairs in the document. So that is something that I'm going to cover in the upcoming video. Okay. So here we have defined textract.detect text document, detect document text, sorry. And then within document, we have given the reference for the S3 object. Now in case if you don't want to pass the S3 reference, instead you want to read a file in the binary form and you want to pass that bytes data, then you can also do that using detect document text. So instead of document, you need to define bytes over here. Okay, but at this point of time, we are going to use the S3 reference. So here once the execution is completed, it will return some response, right? So that response will be stored in this variable, and that would be a JSON response. And finally, whatever response that we are getting, we are printing it on line number 36, right? So basically on line number 39, we are calling extract_text method, which basically accepts two parameters, that is the response that we have received from the Amazon Textract and the extract by parameter, correct? So basically the response that we get from the Amazon Textract is kind of complex, and it does not provide the raw text in line by line or the word by word format. So that's the reason we need to parse that response, and to parse that response, we have defined extract_text method, and that will basically return the raw text from the response that we have received from the Amazon Textract. And once the response is parsed via extract_text method, we are printing the raw text. right? And finally we are returning a response saying document processed successfully. So since we have successfully deployed the code, as a next step we are going to upload a file to the S3 bucket to trigger this Lambda function. So let's go ahead and upload it. Now here I have the sample receipt. Let me quickly show you. So I'm going to upload this receipt into the S3 bucket, and that should trigger the Lambda function. Okay, so let me drag and drop, and I will say upload. So here we have successfully uploaded the file. Now to check the response, navigate back to the Lambda function, click on configuration, click on monitor and say view logs in CloudWatch. And here as you can see the Lambda function is invoked. So click on this log and we would be able to see the response. So here we have the bucket name, that is Textract-video tutorial, and the file name that we have uploaded, correct? And then we have the response over here, as you can see. So this is the Textract response that we have received, and there is a lot more information in here. And finally what we have did is we have processed this response and simply printed the text in the raw format. So basically this text is coming from the function that we have created, that is extract_text. Okay, so now what we are going to do is I am quickly going to walk you through this response that we have received from the Textract. So I'm going to copy this. Here I have this JSON formatter, so I'm going to paste it over here, and I will simply say format beautify. Okay, so this is how the response looks like from the Textract while we perform text analysis, right? So the very first thing that we have is the document metadata, which basically contains the number of pages. So metadata is about the document, like as I mentioned, how many pages are detected. So at this point of time it's the single page receipt, that is the reason the value is 1 over here. And then we have blocks. So basically blocks will contain the array of block objects that contain the text that's detected in the document. Okay, so that's basically blocks. And now let's have a look at the block type. So here the very first block type is page, and if we scroll down then we will get to see the block type as line, and if we scroll down further then we will be able to see the block type as word. Okay, so basically a block type is the type of text item that's recognized. So now since we are performing the detect document text or the text analysis or the text detection, the block type would be page, word and line. So apart from these three block type, you would not be able to see any other block type while you are using detect document text. Okay, so that's block type. And then we have geometry over here. So this would be responsible for giving the information about the location of the recognized text on the image. So you can use this geometry information to draw the bounding box on the actual receipt. And then we have ID over here. So that's the ID for the block type page. Okay, and after that we have relationship. So basically relationship will depict the parent-child relationship information. So here while we are using detect document text, a line object would have the child blocks for each word block that's part of the line of the text. So let's quickly have a look, right? So let me scroll down, and so here we have text as receipt. Let's not look at that. Let's look at this one, that is East Repair Incorporation, that is INC. So here within this block you would have one ID, right, that is associated with this block type line. And then you would be able to see the relationship that this ID, so this is parent and it has the child IDs, right? So that will represent some sort of information. So as I mentioned here, the block type line object has child blocks for each word block. So what does that word block mean? So let me copy this ID. Okay, copy, and I'm going to search for that ID. So I will say enter. Here as you can see, here we have the same ID, and here the block type is word, and you would be able to see the text as East. Okay, so similarly it has how many child ID? That is 3 child ID. And why is that? Because here we have 3 words, right? So this line item is associated with the individual word. So one ID is for East, one ID is for repair, and one ID is for INC. Okay, so let's have a look at the second ID. That's the child ID, and this would be associated with the block type word here as you can see. Okay, and the word is, or the text is, repair, right? East repair. And if you look at the third ID, then it would be INC. Okay, so that is how the relationship is mentioned over here. So you can look at that. So here, this is the page ID and this is all the child ID. So basically this IDs will represent the block type line, and within the block type line, the child ID will represent the block type word. Okay, so that's a relationship. And now if we look at what other information that we have, so we have the confidence score. So this confidence score will depict that with how much confidence it is able to detect or predict the text in the receipt, right? So it is with 99.86% and the text was receipt, right? So that's confidence. And again, each block type would have the geometry information. And here one more information I would like to highlight is that, so that would be within the block type word. So let me quickly search for one of the child ID. So let's consider this. Copy, and I'm going to paste. Let's look for it. So here we are. And now when we look at the block type word, so here we will have confidence, here we will have text, that is receipt, and then here we have one more a key value pair, that is text type. So here text type will represent that whether the detected text is printed or the handwritten, right? So at this point of time the receipt is printed, so that's why the text type is printed over here. Then again we will have the geometry information for the specific word itself. Okay, so at the very high level, this is how the response looks like and this is how you can interpret it. And finally at the very end you will get some sort of response metadata which will contain request ID, status code, and some headers, and the retry attempts, and finally the detect document text model version, that is 1.0. right? So this is how the detect document text response looks like, and this is how you can interpret the relationship and the confidence score, the text and the text type, and then finally you would be able to use the geometry information to draw the bounding box, right? So I'm planning, or I'm thinking to do the separate video on the geometry, right? So where I will show you that how you can draw the bounding box on the receipt for the detected information. Correct. So let me know if you want me to do separate tutorial on geometry. Correct. So guys, this is how you can basically extract the text from the given receipt using S3 bucket and the trigger and the Lambda function. Correct. So I know this is not the full flow. So in real case scenario, none of the user is going to log in into the console and upload the file into the S3 bucket, right, to get this information. But in real scenario, we would be using the API gateways, or we might be using the pre-signed URLs, right? So that is something is in scope for this tutorial series. So I'm going to have a video on end-to-end receipt processing where we will be using the API endpoints, right? But at later point of time. So before that full-fledged tutorial, I want to cover this components in pieces, right? Like we did for detect document text, and then I explained you the response, right? How it looks like, and how we can extract all the text using this function, that is extract text, right? So as you can see, let me quickly show you. So this is how the response look like, and I just showed you that at the line level or the raw text, the response looks something like this. So this is the output of the extract underscore text, right? So this extracted text is at the line level, right? So you would be able to see that receipt, then we have east repair INC. Even if you look at this response, so let me show you. So here the first line is receipt, correct? And then the second line is east repair INC. The third line is 1912 harvest lane. So if we look at this, so here we have east repair INC, then 1912 harvest lane, right? So this is at the line level. But if you want to extract the text at the specific word level, so the output would look something like this: receipt, comma, east, comma, repair, comma, INC, right? Then what you need to do is, all you need to do is modify this parameter, that is extract by line, right? Instead of line, you need to mention word, correct? So that's how you can extract the text. So I was talking about the full-fledged video tutorial. So yeah, before that full-fledged video tutorial, I want to cover each of the components, like we did for direct document text, and then I will be doing for the analyzed document, which will basically return the table information and the key value pair. So we will have a look at it one by one, and once we have the overall idea about each of the component, then it would be straightforward and easy for us to implement end-to-end solution. So guys, that's all for this video, and as usual, if you want me to do tutorial on any use case or service, then please leave them below and I will try my best to come up with a tutorial as soon as possible. And if you have any queries or comments, then again please leave them below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and see you next time.